whether there are copycat crimes or not, it's also important to realize that when police are just standing by and you watching when you report a crime, it doesn't really matter whether it's the same perpetrator striking, walking away, coming back and striking again, or a copycat crime. You can't get anywhere by reporting it, and as a result, you end up being silenced. And of course, this is what has been happening with me. And part of it is that I get tipped through media that there's a copycat crime risk. When what the real risk is that police are fully aware of what's going on and they're just going to let it keep going, which is the new police movement, as we witnessed in Uvalde. And it's catch 22. You can't get away with not reporting a crime, and yet you are to blame for the consequences of being a snitch. So we know that about the imposter group that comes from Ouspensky Federal. And I'm just trying to do something about it, constructive by informing the public. Now, I'm going to identify my false assumption here. My false assumption is that the witnesses to this tape have done their homework. Since I know it's a false assumption, I'm not going to be negligent. I'll try my best to fill you in on the background. One of the things we know is that there's huge holes in the perpetual motion machine that masquerades as being quasi-brilliant from Ouspensky Federal, which involves Mellon Bank, Penis Gabriel, the Coward Fripp, and various funders of the um, enterprise of talking about as we go along a sort of clubby quiz game of do you remember this challenge? Do you remember that challenge? And it's a clog creation that was designed. It's based on the principle of critiquing reality that was developed by the arch villain Foucault. But as you know, there's huge holes in it. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. So, for example, children have expectations and their stages of their education meant to match the golden mean of what a child can be expected to understand. Like there's certain the child development where you can't be expected to understand as a child something, and to feed into a postdoctoral dissertation to the crib and then punish a nursing baby for not answering in complete sentences in name. So then they violated the stages. It's the point, and they made an argument. Well, this prodigy might have succeeded. The abnormals from Alpha Centauri, the Dogans knew about Sirius B. Therefore, the child in the crib could have critiqued Michael Foucault. Is the pattern of their reasoning. And when something has that kind of dramatic license to it, it's uh, foolish to allow it to masquerade as social theory or closed circuit of in divine revelation, which is what they've been doing. I mean, it's everybody knows. I mean, you can't turn a penis into a gentleman no matter how hard you try. That's what they're doing. Now, one of the things we have to deal with in this horrible masquerade of pseudo intelligent obscurity that came down through the presto vivace of King Crimson and all of their gibberish and their secret tapes and their playback through Jaime Carbonell's purposeful mistranslation computers and their confiding in Putin and Oliver Stone and their refusal to admit that a loose woman was playing all sides to get what she could from it is, and the only person who didn't mistreat her was the person she targeted with the most fierce hatred. because she was a hireling. You're not allowed to say that, but that's the truth about it. And so they have these personal invasive things from childhood, cruel things from 9, 10 years old being sexually abused. And they say that this is necessary because the sacred scrolls of Isis need to perceive the inner child to determine the dramatic license that they've been taking and so on. We've been through all this over and over again. But one of the things that we um, have to have some facility with are the attending issues of the way that the argumentation does develop into a critique of reality that exposes some of the things that have been actually happening. For example, Operation Medicine Man is a fact of history. It involved the USS Iowa bombing, the Exxon Valdez bombing, 911 bombing, the murders of Hans and Princess Diana, the burning down of the Jackson Immunogenetic Laboratories. And this was an inside circle, people. These weren't copycat crimes, these were administrative recreations. And if you look at the famous Muppet on the Bridge experiment, I was at Penn News, I was deaf, I was trying to escape kidnapping ring who were committing car theft, and we're stealing books from the library, and we're using my name as like a laughing stock. And in comes this super dude with plastic explosive contracts and nuclear theories, and he says pacifism is immoral. And he puts up his famous Muppet on the bridge. There's a child on a bridge, and there's tanks, and there's soldiers, and to protect the soldiers, you have to blow up the bridge, and there's no time to help the child escape. Oh, God has saved the Muppet on the bridge, so you have to make the decision. So look, little boy, the little boy has to go, right? And this is the Muppet on thank God for the Muppet on the bridge of the National Rifle Association Second Amendment's theory of the nature of reality, right? This is what the socio mythologizers of military sociology praise before. The only thing is higher is Jesus, the Muppet on the bridge that has to go because it proves the nature of reality. It's like there was a scene in a German concentration camp that was revealed by somebody who said the German had seen God almost because he was told not to shoot the Jew because the bullet was worth more than the Jew because of the scarcity of metals in the tail end of the war, right? And he was like, the bullet is worth more than the Jew. Universally in American society, they do like this. God bless them up and on the bridge to prove the nature of reality. The child on the bridge has to go to protect the troops. There's no time. You have to blow the bridge. Oh, Swami Nostra, Swami Nostra. And they all chant and gibber and they pass around the sacred torch and they light candles of learning. All striking, all striking. God bless them up and on the bridge. And that's what we see, when they gibber into the Ramos lesson, go down and bring the children into media, into the media, because all these Texas warriors have gone into the CIA, have seen the massacres in Guatemala and the Honduras, that are off Broadway, off Broadway. They don't make it to the news. It's not reported. The reporters get killed if they try to film it and so on. So bring one in as a demonstration project and stand in the windows. See, God bless them up and on the bridge. You see, it was necessary to enlighten you so that you would be gratified at how much courage it takes to silence the poor and eliminate the people who are selling this stuff about the Ukraine. Haven't evaluated it properly. Don't care that they haven't evaluated properly. Not one of them cares any more about the horrible, horrible sadness and tragedy of the losses of people, innocent people in the Ukraine than they do about the victims of COVID-19. None of them do. And what they're doing is they're playing a game of mopping on the bridge, to prove the nature of reality. It's a Swami Nosa of the Gibber Society that's in military sociology. That's what this is, okay? So you have these themes of the Ouspensky Circle, and if you look at Gorbachev, right, in the 80s, when Foucault was negotiating with the Ayatollah, Gorbachev was selling Exocet missiles through Israel to the Ayatollah, and Oliver North was mining Nicaraguan harbors, and deaf children were being put for their own safety in a place where they had to teach each other sign language. They developed their own sign language. All of this stuff, the weird stuff, and Patricia Fripp appears in defense of Colin Powell in 60 Minutes, and they have this fundamentalist tripartite system. While the AIDS panic was going on, and this guy comes out with a stigma, the Gorbachev's um, birthmark. This is part of the thinking of the Ouspensky Circle, and they call it the Pussy Bowl weekend. Two virgins, they called it. Put in, put in for the nature of reality is get pussy. And God saved them up on the bridge. These are this is the sacred mentality of these exterminators. And you can't get across to anybody, like, if you try to talk rationally about David Bowie, there's huge similarities between Gail Burson's script and look-alike of who appears on the cover of one of the records by his guitarist, who was the person who introduced me to individuals of great prominence in the Ouspensky Circle who were behind and being evoked in Operation Medicine Man. Tamo de Jong had a namesake, Judith de Jong, on Mount Desert Island, where Caspar Weinberger lived and where I was lured for the deranged farce. Another hole in their argument is that they were like voodooing for fun, recreation, threaten them with AIDS, put scabies in his skin and poison him in the mouth, you know, and they didn't bother to um, identify how much of the horrible trauma they were putting me through was from being kidnapped and tortured and being forced to relive being kidnapped and tortured. They were too busy spanking the monkey to the obscenity of being extremely cruel to somebody who was tortured as a child. Some of them said because he was white. Some of them said because he was straight. Some of them said whatever, this or that and the other thing, But the point is the tremendous dramatic license in the way that they interpreted it. It's tremendous. How dare they call it sociology? But it happens outside of school. What happens is it's super relevant. Like Flame Over Africa happened outside of school, but that doesn't mean it wasn't Ouspensky federalism. No, it happened outside of school, which means you can't be accredited for knowing about it. It's like, no, you don't get credit for knowing about that. The Bowie existed in that realm. The similarities between Gail Burson and Diamond Dogs, where he espouses genocide, and he went around doing this Heil Hitler stuff and translating into German martial psychology into German with songs like Helden, right, which was heroes sung in German. And they had this Ouspensky circle tripping out to the AIDS Holocaust to make it so there was a Lemmings generation that was being called to uh, be in the fashion statement of Michael Foucault's self-destruction. Of course, he was a masochist from the super rich who went to meet with the Ayatollah, and he sacrificed himself to it. And so did Sean Straub. I put out a call for people who might be in the Green Party from the Jewish Holocaust survivor community who given themselves AIDS. And there was one right outside the Dakota when John Lennon and Mark Chapman pulled their theme park of Double Fantasy. His name was Sean Straub, the same letters as Burson, Straub. The implications of STRUB, BURST, then some boom, boom, right? And they have strawberry fields forever and stuff. It's a word index, it's a word college name index. And this is some of the issues that are perfectly clear. I mean, it's perfectly clear that they're taunting us with the monkeypox and stuff. And nobody wants to talk about it because you say David Bowie, people go, nope, no, we like him, and they're brainwashed to say that. They don't want to be. You can't say intelligently, can you be critical and intellectually inclined enough to try to identify what's happening with this particular salient, timely person from the days when they were saying that Reagan was the good guy in the AIDS attack? And no, no, no. Well, we like him. Don't think, don't. It's critical, critical. No, no. All we're doing is saying, can you be thoughtful? Can you identify? For example, the Beatles' White Album came out November 22nd, 1968, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. April 1968, King was done in. June 1968, Bobby Kennedy was done in. November 1968, they put out this album, White is supposedly Japanese Morning. Does that sound like morning? Zapped them right between the eyes. Zap. All the children saying it sounds more like Sab da Ebe. It sounds more like a Venus flytrap. It sounds more like the Fiddlers of Dachau. Okay, that's what it really sounds like. Bang, bang, shoot, shoot. It doesn't sound like morning. The message that they're getting across is that is all unnegated by the tall tale that they give about um, Lenin being killed by the people for whom they are advocating, and therefore Ronald Reagan is the good guy. And they just play a shell game with the other issues. You can't be critical. It's outside of school. It's Ouspensky Federal. You don't ask questions about Ouspensky Federal. No, son. No, son. These are the sort of issues that need to be brought into focus because it's perfectly obvious that we're dealing with a power structure that just wants to erase our existence and get us to argue, well, as we go along, we understand, master. We understand, master. We understand, master. I mean, it's zero contribution to the health and welfare of the human race. And they put off dealing with the environment. They were too busy doing this to care about the environment and the ecology. And they upload some people from the ecological movement who do have some sense and say, well, let's make sport. Because then would say, well, okay, be sporting about it. Well, we'll just be sporting about it. And these people have the upper hand because of the refusal to engage simple issues that they bring to light because you like them. That's the way it is. Or you like the Beatles. So we'll never talk about what they did because we like them more than we like you, Sonny boy. It's something that you should do your homework about. You should ask yourself, is it really worth it to allow some cerebral, demented know-it-alls who play tricks, who compromise the truth, who use tremendous dramatic license in what they say are flawless theories, who pick on helpless people to murder your grannies wholesale and go kiss off, we want you to get in line to fight in the boonies where we've established a parameter. It's a metaphor for your right to exist. We want you to get in line and celebrate the Muppet on the bridge. God bless the Muppet on the bridge. Boom, he's got to go. The Muppet on the bridge. Get him out of here. Muppet on the bridge. It's sacred. It's sacred. It shows the nature of reality. Wow, man, we're neat. We're neat. And these Neato boys are running the show from Ouspensky Federal. And I don't get how it could be lost on everybody.